Welcome, Thrivers, to this week's episode of Women Thriving in Business podcast. My guest today is Victoria Gallagher, who is the CEO and founder of HipTalk. So welcome, Victoria.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great. So excited to be here with you today. And so let's just get right into it. So Victoria, tell us all about HipTalk. And then also share what got you started on your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, so thank you for asking. HipTalk is really I guess you would say is like the name of the whole conglomerate of all the different things that I do. So HipTalk is essentially, it's a hypnosis organization, a hypnotherapy organization where I offer massive amounts of hypnotherapy recordings through my website, through my app, and then that's turned into writing books, and it's turned into law of attraction coaching and seminars, and you name it. So, I've been doing this for the past, 23 years now. I started hiptalk.com, actually started the domain, the whole thing back in 1999. And what got me on the path to creating this was that I was a stockbroker for a number of years, and a very successful stockbroker at that, making a six-figure income, had the corner office. I was doing well, and I kind of outgrew it, started like losing my passion for it. It was one of those things that you got to get up at 4:00 in the morning and and get to the office by 6:30, and you're supposed to have read the Wall Street Journal by then, and studied up on the trends in the market and make all your calls and do all that. I did that for a good number of years, and then one day it just didn't sound like much fun anymore, and I just kind of I wasn't really sure if it was me, because I really thought that I was going to do that for the rest of my life. I thought I was going to retire as a stockbroker, and everything was geared toward that. And so I started seeking out some therapy, and I went to a therapist. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why don't I have any passion for this anymore? And she sent me to this seminar, this 4-day seminar called Size Seminars. And I went through this seminar, and it just completely turned my mind inside out. We examined every area of our life over this 4 days. We learned all these amazing meditation techniques that really, to me, were like the entryway to proving the whole law of attraction thing, psychic energy. Like, we did these remote viewing where we could literally, with our partner, we could see what was going on with this person that they would bring to mind, and we could examine them and see if there was something wrong with them physically, and then send them some healing energy. And I just loved doing all this work. And at that time, I didn't know what it would look like, but I just knew that somehow or another I wanted to be involved in doing this work. And I started trying to get a lot of my friends and family and stuff to come to the seminars, oh, this is great. Most people were just like, nah, that's okay for you, Victoria. We're just, we're not there. And because of the fact that it was such a turnoff for other people, or to spend 4 days of their life and spend however much money it was at the time, hundreds of dollars, I thought one day, well, what if I just took the best parts of the seminar, like the meditation parts, the closed eye techniques, and just start making that possible for people to do in the comfort of their own home. And again, it was just a flash of inspiration that came to my mind. I didn't know exactly what that would require me or how to do it, but one thing kind of led to another. I started searching online, for, how to write these kind of visualizations. How do I write these things so that they're is there some special technique that I need to follow? Is there some kind of formula that I need to follow, rather than just kind of going with, I was just going with my own intuition. I was writing them for myself, and I was recording them and letting other people listen to them. And so it just, one day, the whole idea of becoming a hypnotherapist came up in my search and was like, oh, that's what it is. And there was a certification class and I went to go take the certification training and one thing led to another. And lo and behold, I didn't know that I was going to have to quit my job so soon. After I got my business license and everything, my branch manager, where I was doing pretty well, found out about what I was doing and gave me an ultimatum and said, you got to either go this way or go that way. And there was a lot at stake because I wasn't making any money yet as a hypnotherapist, spending more money than I was making. But I just said, what the heck? I'm going to make this happen. And, I went through probably a year and a half of like real deep internal struggle and everything to really make it happen. But it was one of those life-changing moments that I'm so, so glad that I took that on and decided to do that. So that's my story.
So I heard a couple of things. Is one is you were really pushed into entrepreneurship. Like you were getting there, but you were really just kind of pushed into it because you were given this ultimatum. But I also hear that you were seeking something. And so you came from a world of finance, you came in from a world of numbers and evidence and like I would say very tangible thinking, right? And so you go to this 4-day seminar, and this 4 days, was it really that easy for you to slip into this other, or to kind of transition into this other way of thinking? Because you have been doing pretty well. So, one would say like you got the law of attraction, right? Without even really realizing what the law of attraction was. But how did you really make that shift from like this very logical, and I would say I'm going to say masculine energy, for lack of a better term, to something that is more, I would say, more expansive, less tangible? And, did people think you had lost your mind? Like what, how did you make that shift?
A lot of people didn't really understand it. And, so, I mean, to kind of give a little bit more detail on how I made that transition from like, was it really after the 4 days? No, it was like after the 4 days was when I kind of knew that I wanted something to do with this and I wanted more of it. And I did continue pursuing a little bit more training with this seminar. So there was this 90-day program that you could, and then there was a 7-day program and a 10-day program. And I just like gobbled it all up. Like I was really, really into it. And once you did all of that, you could become a coach of that material as well. And it was all free stuff. Like it wasn't like I was being paid as a paid coach. It was all kind of like volunteer stuff. But so once I went through this 90-day program and I started to develop a little bit of this idea of like, okay, am I going to do these meditation recordings? It wasn't probably for maybe 9 months after that. That's how long it took me to do the research and find out that like, oh, there's a certification training on becoming a hypnotherapist. And so when I took that certification training in February of 99, so I take the very first class, I guess, January of 98. And then so it was like by February 99, I'm in this hypnotherapy training school. And by April, I was getting my business license and opening up my office. So like literally within 2 months. And then from April to July is ultimately when I, really kind of started decorating my office and putting things in there and starting to just barely see clients and get a Yellow Pages ad and, do all these things. And July, so it was like June 1st was when my boss made that ultimatum. And July 1st was the day that I quit my job. And so it was about a year and a half from that first day to where I am full-time hypnotist, full-time entrepreneur. Now, again, not making much money at the time or really any because, I had office expenses, I had advertising expenses, I had all these other expenses. It took maybe another year and a half from that point to where I actually started making money. And I had to go through this total, nervous breakdown of going through this, like running out of money, ultimately filing bankruptcy, ultimately getting to a point where like I was really embarrassed And I hit this moment, and this is such a key thing because think about it. Like I was making hypnotherapy recordings that I was selling online, and these were all about, quitting smoking, losing weight, success, motivation, financial prosperity, all these things that I was teaching other people, like you can do this with the power of your mind, right? And I used the power of my mind to create this business, but I did not continue to use the power of my mind to manifest abundance. What happened the day July 1st, when let's just say the infamous shit hit the fan, stuff just got real. It's like I went into like this total fight or flight mode, and I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't like getting up and eating a hearty, healthy breakfast. I wasn't working out. I wasn't eating right. I wasn't meditating. I wasn't calling anyone. And I wasn't asking for anybody's help except for a couple of my friends and my father. I would ask for a little bit, like I thought, oh, I'll just borrow $1,000 and I can stay afloat, which was so mortifying. Like it was so mortifying borrowing money at this point in time. And here I was, like, I'm teaching personal growth and I'm teaching people like use the power of your mind. And I wasn't doing it. I was just like, why isn't this working? And getting stressed out. So the moment came when I literally got off the phone with a friend who I borrowed money from. And like, I was so freaking embarrassed. And I just fell to the floor and I just started bawling after that. And I just had this really, really deep, one of the most cathartic cries that I ever had in my life. And I was like almost able to step outside of myself and see myself down on the floor, like looking down at myself, like, what is going on with you? Why are you acting like such a victim? Like you're acting like the world is against you and you can do nothing about this. And it was like this little enlightening moment. And it was almost like I had this God type of experience where like God came into me. And I don't mean like I'm not a religious person, but in that moment, I really felt connected to a higher power. I just felt like this was just a version of me, like a parallel reality. And I've really, for the first time, I felt like so empowered in that moment. And I felt, okay, so the first thing that we need to get right with ourselves is I need to get into integrity with practicing what I preach. I'm telling everybody that you can change your mind with the power of hypnosis, but I wasn't doing it. I had a perfectly good reason for it. I didn't have time. But when you don't have time, okay, there's like this old ancient Chinese proverb that, he says like, meditate for 20 minutes a day. Unless you don't have time, then do it for an hour, because we all have the same amount of time every day. I have no more important. I have no less amount of time. I have no more on my plate. It was just that I was frazzled. And here's the thing is when I started doing and practicing what I preached, it's like magically, it kind of opened things up for me. It opened up the time. It opened up these barriers to my financial success. It allowed me to tap into creativity. It allowed me just to come up with ideas that my mind was just so scrunched up and stressed out that I couldn't see, that were right under me. Like literally, I'd never even come up with the idea in all this time, how to sail. It's like, oh, duh. Okay, that's a no-brainer. Then it was like, advertise your stuff on Amazon, put your stuff on eBay. And I started getting beyond, like, it's not just available on Hip Talk, it's available everywhere. And I just started getting these little ideas that would flow to me. And it's like, like the world of abundance started opening up because, not like the money was just flying to me, which is the way a lot think that law of attraction works, that the money is just going to fly into your bank account. No, there's like, you're the conduit that's going to receive the information that's going to, help you to do what it is that's going to get you the result that you need. And literally from that moment, which was, I would say, that was like right about the beginning of 2000. By the end of that year, I was totally in the black finally. And I always managed to stay in the black from that point forward.
What kept you going during those periods of time, as you were, running out of money, having to borrow money, really feeling like your life was spinning out of control, maybe? What kept you like going on this path versus saying, you know what, I could go back and be a stockbroker again? Like, what kept you? What did you know about yourself or about your calling, your purpose that kept you going on this path, even though you felt like it's not working out as you had planned?
That's such a good question. And literally, no one's ever asked me that question. It's so easy for me to answer that. But I'm going to back up for a minute because I did have so many people telling me, like, you should go and go back to work or even get a part-time job. So I had a lot of other voices in my head, not just my own, actually, telling me to do the opposite. And I will just say, like, literally, so going back to like the day that I moved out of my father's house, the day that I moved out of my father's house, which was like when I was 19, I told myself in that moment that I was never, ever go back. Like I would never, ever move back home. And, even though like literally right after I moved out, it was right before Thanksgiving, I lost my job. And you would think that, but I was like, tenacious little me. I kept my agreement to myself that I would never do that. And it was really kind of the same thing. I am one tenacious, determined person that like, I will never quit. I just will never, ever quit. And, there's been similar instances where I've just hit those roadblocks and there's just something in me that kind of knows that sometimes things take a little longer than you anticipate them to. And I think one of the things that makes it take longer is we get in our own way. Like I was in my own way, trying to do it the hard way rather than just taking a break and allowing myself, that's honestly something that's in my personality. Like I do tend to do things like the hard way, even to this day, but just on a different level. And so I think for me, it just really comes down to that determination and tenacity. And, I love to just be able to bottle up that determination and tenacity that I have and give it to other people because so much of it comes down to it, but it also comes down to faith and belief and confidence. And so those are just some other traits that I really feel we can always look to. And the thing is that there's a solution to every problem. And I think if you truly believe that, if you truly believe that everything you can figure it out. So if it's, not being able to make enough money, well, that other people make money doing this. If other people can make money at it, then so can you. And so you can always like kind of look to them and see like, well, what is it that they're doing? What are the steps that they take? And you can always model how other people are doing it. Confidence. Confidence is something a lot of people lack when they are having struggles with business, but confidence can be built by doing a little something every day, by keeping your word to yourself every day, by just taking one step forward. Like I always asked myself, it was like one of the key things, even in the time when I was banging my head up against the wall, because I had the limiting beliefs that, it's all about working hard. Well, there's a point to, I think hard work is definitely part of the equation, but it doesn't have to feel hard. It doesn't have to feel like you don't have to put in 15-hour days every day for the rest of your life. There's just going to be some days though that you're going to work like where other people might perceive you working hard because you're just so passionate about what you do. And it's like, oh, I could just do this forever, and that's to me, like, that's the hard work is like, sometimes you get lost in what you're doing. But getting back to the, confidence is something that you can create for yourself by just simply taking a step forward every day and doing, make a little manageable and I say manageable to-do list. Like one coach that I had, it was probably one of the best pieces of advice that she ever gave me, because I would make these long to-do lists and I wouldn't get everything done. And it would just piss me off. At the end of the day, it's like, I worked so hard. It's like, why couldn't I get all these things done? It's like, well, when you really actually think about how long each of these things would have taken, I was making impossible to-do lists. So she told me just take, sure, make a list of 10 things, but put the 3 most important things on a little sticky, and just put that little sticky right on your computer or right wherever your workplace space is, and just focus on those. Because if you get the top 3 things done, then, you're ultimately getting what's important done. And
Right.
you couldn't have done anything else anyway. So you might as well get the ones that are the most important ones done. And then, you've got your other list that if you have time to get those things done, fine. But these are the top 3 things.
I love that. When you think about where's the line between that tenacity and determination and just being stubborn? Like, how do you know when, how do you even know when to, pivot? Because sometimes, as entrepreneurs, we're going down a path and actually it's not the right path. And, you think like, I've invested time, I've invested money. So how did you determine whether like, okay, this is my path, I'm pursuing it no matter what, because this is what I'm supposed to be doing, versus knowing when to say when and be like, okay, this is the universe telling me there's another direction I need to go in?
That is a really good question. And to me, I was almost going to say there's no difference for me between being stubborn and being tenacious. But I see your point. And the way I would define that for myself is I would say you have to really ask yourself, like, how does it feel? How does it feel I think the feeling is a higher vibe when you're feeling tenacious and you're just happy to continue doing it. I mean, like I had that one little breakdown because I just wasn't making any money at it. And I knew there was a way, but I was more like frustrated with myself because it's like, I couldn't figure out like why I was so blocked about that. And so it's like, almost like I had to prove to myself that you do need the power of your mind with you. And so for me, it was like I had to experience it that way. I don't think everybody else has to experience it that way, especially if they decide to use hypnosis and meditation and get their mind on their side. So I would say that was just something that I had to, it was a personal thing for me to have to experience and to have to learn from so that I could teach other people and I could really be a stand for that. You got to get the subconscious mind on your side if you want to have success in business, because it's going to do everything in its power to work against you until you turn that around. So that was like a lesson in just really having to learn the hard way about how the mind works. And I just felt like that was personal for me. Not everybody else has to have that kind of level of stubbornness or tenacity or determination. It might come more natural because maybe they don't have the limiting beliefs. But if you do have limiting beliefs and you do find that you're just continuing to sabotage your success or hit these roadblocks, well, then maybe it's time that you go inside and look and ask yourself the question that you asked me, like, well, am I just being stubborn, or is this something I really feel passionate about? And if it is something that you feel really passionate about, then that's the time to really take a look at what are some of the limiting beliefs that I'm running up against that are sabotaging myself. So I hope that kind of answered that question.
Yeah, it did. And as you were talking further, I was thinking about, that tenacity of kind of fighting for your dreams versus I think when you're just trying to maybe not be wrong, right? That's when you're like, I'm going to keep like, I just have to do this now, no matter what. And there's no really accomplishment at the end of it. It's just like, I'm not going to be wrong. So I think you're right about the feelings and the energy around it can be help you really discern if you're on the right path or if you're just trying to prove a point.
Yeah, yeah. If it's exciting you for the most part, you're feeling happy as you're going along. And, even though like doubts can creep in and all of that, you know that you're going in the right direction. You know this is for a good purpose.
Mhm.
And, if, like you said, feeling stubborn, usually like you're trying to get away, you're trying to avoid failure rather
Mhm.
than moving toward success in something that you really feel is right for you.
Definitely, 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 definitely. So when you think about your successes over this period of time, so it sounds like your first success was really kind of turning the business around. What would you say you're most proud of? What accomplishment are you most proud of during your time in business?
Oh gosh, I actually have a few that come to mind right at the same time. I think one of them was becoming a number one bestseller. There's nothing like seeing your book that you wrote. I mean, finishing writing a book in the first place is an accomplishment. That's a marathon in and of itself. To start at the beginning and complete a 269-page book, but then to get it publish on, self-publish on Amazon and to get it in number one bestseller in multiple categories and to have it actually not only that, but have it gain so many 5-star reviews and get it written about on, different blogs and get to go on podcasts and talk about it. To me, that's a huge accomplishment. And, I have others. I mean, my app is just another one that I'm just like super, super proud of. And just that app, by itself surpassed the, 6-figure a year on recurring, monthly and annual income. So just like having a 6-figure app in the app store it's not an easy thing to accomplish, something that's like, it's there for you I mean, I still have to market it and work for it and all of that, improve it. And now we're rebranding it. It's going to become now it's going to I mean, I really want to 10x that over the next few, couple of years. So doing paid speaking engagements is just another major accomplishment. So I've got a bunch that come to mind, but yeah, those are a few of them.
I love it. Those are all, great things. And I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs aspire to those because they really are, brand extenders as well as just, bringing more people to your products and services. Like those are ways to get to people or reach people who might not necessarily find you organically. But, oh, you have a book, you're an author like that. They're like, oh, I see you. Right. So I think that just definitely establishes your credibility. Can you talk a bit or explain a bit about really what hypnotherapy is and, why people would seek out hypnotherapy?
That's a really great question. So, hypnotherapy is the communication between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. So, we have a mind that, a brain that has basically two minds. The conscious level of mind is, what you're using all day long to kind of, think, solve problems, add numbers, very logical, analytical part of your mind. And then you have your subconscious mind, which is like everything else. It's the most powerful part of your mind. It's where all your memories are, all of your emotions, all of your habits. It runs your whole body, your heart beating, your eyes blinking, your blood flow, everything. And it's the most powerful part of your mind. And there's all these numbers that say that it's like 90%, 95%, 99%. It doesn't really matter. It's the biggest part of your mind, the most powerful part of your mind. And so anytime like you have any kind of habit that you're looking to change, it could be a habit or it could be, something a memory that's impacting you, maybe you have anxiety, maybe you want to quit smoking or lose weight or, become successful in your business. Well, all of that is going to require the subconscious mind to be on board with that, to agree with that, because, subconscious mind's job really is to make happen whatever the subconscious mind believes at the deepest level. And most of us have these unconscious beliefs that we're not even aware of. And we don't really even I mean, that's kind of what happened to me at that time. Like I didn't realize that I was sabotaging myself because there was just a part of me that didn't really feel like I deserved to be successful without doing a whole lot of hard work. And a lot of people have that program. So if you want to change your life, you've got to change the programming inside your subconscious mind. And so you can do that without hypnotherapy. You could say, a million affirmations a day. You could force yourself through willpower to do certain things. And you could have some sort of a shocking emotional experience that, and it's really hard to create that or recreate that. But a lot of times through like heightened emotional experiences, that's when programs happen. You maybe get in a car accident and like now all of a sudden you're afraid to drive, little things like that. Or you can use the hypnotherapy, which just simply helps you to kind of put the critical thinking aside and opens up the subconscious mind to receive the new suggestions. And these new suggestions ultimately become the new programs and the new way that you think and feel and behave. So that's essentially why. And I mean, it's like, who can use it? Anyone. I mean, like literally anyone, no matter what. If there's anything that you're having struggles with doing, or you just want to improve your life or whatever, hypnotherapy is the quickest way to make a permanent change in your mindset to cause you to take action on those things in a new way.
And do people typically leverage hypnotherapy in combination with other therapy modalities? Like it sounds like hypnotherapy can uncover, unsurface, help you kind of recondition yourself. But do people typically use that in conjunction with other types of therapy?
Yeah. When you say other kinds of therapy, I'm going to switch that to like other modalities because they're not all the modalities are necessarily like on a therapeutic level. So people will couple the hypnotherapy with maybe even just doing affirmations or maybe just taking time out to meditate. When you meditate every day, that really just kind of like ripens the mind to be even more receptive and just allowing you to like relax to deeper and deeper levels. So, coupling that with affirmations, coupling with meditation, or coupling it with visualization, coupling it with, there's other like modalities people use, like they're tapping whenever they have a anxious feeling or whatever, they'll use these EFT tapping. There's so many different other modalities that people will use. NLP is another modality people will use. Any extra that you do is going to enhance the effects of it.
As you were talking, I was thinking through, would you say hypnotherapy is really around kind of, I guess, life enhancing versus say, I was thinking of traditional talk therapy or some things like that, which really are around mental health and mental health versus hypnotherapy and the other modalities that you talked about, which are really more around enhancing your life or, changing habits and those things, which is slightly different purpose to hypnotherapy.
Well, so to address that, so a lot of times people will do talk therapy, for many, many years before they ever really get around to actually solving the problem because you're trying to solve the problem on the surface level of the mind, and the problems are not generally found there. And so you have to do a lot of talking. And a lot of times people are just kind of dancing around the problem because the subconscious mind is so very protective. And some of the times we just forget because everything is stored in the subconscious mind. And we'd go crazy if we had to keep track of all of those memories on the surface of our mind, on the conscious mind, if we had to like think about all of that stuff all the time. But it's all there. It's all filed away in the subconscious mind. And through talk therapy, not to put it down, I mean, sometimes it can be effective. But oftentimes people that come to hypnotherapy, they've gone through talk therapy for many, many years. And then they'll come to and do a hypnotherapy session because it's not necessarily what I do, because I like to I practice more law of attraction and manifestation, and I'm helping people to bring about positive changes in their life. But a lot of people use hypnotherapy, though, to uncover some really, really, bad things that happened in childhood and help to repair that and create a new relationship with those old memories so that those old memories aren't haunting them. And, so whatever it is that people use talk therapy for, they can use hypnotherapy for those very same things.
Thank you for that. Because, I was just thinking the connections and the synergies, as well as, the why one might go to hypnotherapy versus other types of therapy or other modalities. So thank you. That was very helpful to kind of talk through that and really understand they can be complementary. They can be used in conjunction, and they can be used, if one doesn't work, another might. So that's helpful to kind of think through that. So when you talk about, can you talk about the law of attraction? Because, lots of people may have seen The Secret, or lots of people may have heard about the law of attraction. And you alluded to this a little bit before, that it's not a passive thing that, you just kind of think great thoughts and money, like you said, money flows into your bank account.
Exactly.
So can you really unpack for us what the law of attraction is and what it isn't?
Yes, I love talking about the law of attraction. And you're absolutely right. In my personal opinion, I mean, the law of attraction is not as, there's many different schools of thought on how the law of attraction works. And, like when many people probably seen The Secret, it looks like you ask, you believe, and you achieve, right? And you have these 3 steps. And so you ask, and then the next day, and you're going to all of a sudden receive a Ferrari that you asked for, sitting in your parking garage. And it doesn't quite work like that. So the way that I like to explain law of attraction is it's really a special way of, like, whatever you focus on, you are eventually going to attract that into your life. But it goes through a process. And that can mean on a positive note, and that can also mean on a negative note. So say that I'm constantly telling myself that, there's never enough time in my day to get everything done, which is a very common thing that we entrepreneurs like to talk about. There's never enough time to get everything done. So as I say that, and as I believe that, then what's happening is, the subconscious mind is very much at play here when it comes to the law of attraction. And it's going to it knows how to set that up for me to make sure that what I'm saying matches my reality. And it's just going to validate that for me. And so it's just going to cause me to get busy or have things take twice as long as they need to, cause me maybe to be less efficient, cause me to put too much on my plate. Whatever action or whatever behavior it needs to put there, it's going to put there. And the same thing works in reverse. So that's how it works on the negative side. If I was to say, wow, I always seem to end up with an hour left over at the end of my day, you could flip the script on that and turn that around and say, and maybe not even that might even be too strong of a thing to say to yourself. If you say, I wonder how I could find myself with an extra hour left over at the end of the day. And you start to inquire and you start to ask yourself, I wonder how I could end up with an extra, or I love it when I end up with an extra hour at the end of my day. Same thing. The subconscious mind is going to be focused on exactly that idea, an hour left over at the end of the day. And then something's going to happen that's going to cause you to, start to step into that reality. To me, it's all about, and really when it comes down to that, like if you think about what I mentioned earlier, how every single problem has a solution. So I always like to, start people off with, what is it that you desire, or what is it that you're trying to get away from? And we really talk about what's in the way of that, so I actually get them to complain about everything that's going on. And then we take all those complaints, because it's so easy to complain, and we turn those into a preference. So what would you prefer instead? And I start to change the way people focus, because all day long people do this and they're not even aware of it, but they're ultimately bringing about more negativity because of what they're thinking about, what they're observing, what they listen to other people do. And there's just, or even just using the word not, like, I don't want to run out of time anymore. Well, when you say I don't want to run out of time anymore, what are you focusing on? The key word in that sentence is running out of time. And
Right.
so law of attraction is just, it's really, to me, it's not this magical, mystical thing that's outside of you. It is you. My wish is my command. It's not like somebody else is doing this for me. It's my mind. And it's the way my mind is connecting with, I do believe that we also have, like, beyond the subconscious mind, we have this super conscious mind where, like, all the minds are ultimately connected.
Mhm.
And that's where the psychic energy realm is. That's the infinite intelligence. And so you can connect to that all knowing universe, that all knowing universal intelligence. And that's where new ideas for how this problem is going to be resolved, that's where it comes from. But, you have to be persistent. You have to be persistent in thinking about the solution rather than the problem. And the solution will eventually manifest and come. And you have to take action on it when you're presented with the solution.
Right. I think for me, the law of attraction really starts with recognizing the possibilities, like recognizing how this can be different. So, taking your example of time, where you're like, I don't have time. Well, who's managing your schedule? Do you put a block of time in your schedule that is your space? And for some people, they never even think, oh, I can block off time on my schedule.
I'm just now becoming aware of that too, because it's always, podcast, who am I interviewing? Who's interviewing me? And then my coaching clients, and then my business meetings. And it's like, wow, I've got a huge schedule this week, and I got another one this week, and I got another. It's like, okay, you know what? We're blocking out this time. This is just for me. We're going to block out this other time. And this is just for me. And whoa, now, like, I find myself with the enough time. And that's how you create that extra hour at the end of the day. Create it.
You create it, you demand it, and it's like it becomes a thing. And so that's, to me, the law of attraction. And I think the other piece I have to get to is, like, what does that look like beyond, I think of time is a really important thing, but that's kind of a small thing that I control literally. Now it's like, okay, how does that translate into the clients I want to get, the revenue I want to generate? How can I really have a grasp of the possibilities with also limiting myself as well, but really just thinking about how abundant is the world and how that abundance can flow to me and through me. And, that's really my evolved understanding of the law of attraction. So I always think about possibilities. That's
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love it when it comes to manifesting new clients, because I think manifesting new clients is probably one of the easier things, because it's like you can almost see like instant results with that. And, you just think about the kinds of clients that you want. And, you imagine maybe like your favorite clients that you just love working with, and you allow yourself to actually get into that feeling, because it's the feeling really that changes the subconscious. So the feeling is what causes you to believe. And again, it's like, we don't always have the answers on how something's going to happen. You got to let it cook up a little bit of an idea into your subconscious mind. But to me, it's like, getting yourself into that state of like, well, what are my favorite clients, and feeling the abundance and feeling grateful. And even for the small, like, I have to practice this sometimes, even with my orders that I get off of my website. It's like, I remember a long time ago, I used to kind of poo-poo the little $5 orders that I would get every once in a while. But then I think about, and I imagine that person, they just came to my website and blessed me with $5, and they're going to, and that's, they're going to change their life with this piece of information. And so I bless them. And when you bless everyone who uses your products and your services, no matter how big or small of a contribution they're making to your business, you're ultimately getting way more back by, blessing the big and small amounts and coming from that place of abundance. I mean, it's all important. It's all part of the cause, and so I really like to practice gratitude and blessing everything that I, because no one has to shop with me. No one has, they're choosing, and that's a blessing.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So, Victoria, tell us about your book, what folks can expect if they read it, and who is the book really written for?
So, yeah, it's my book, Practical Law of Attraction. That book I wrote about 3 years ago, and it's really the culmination of all of my insights and knowledge that I had up until that moment in time. A lot of it was really addressing at that time. So many people were just starting to really learn a little bit about the law of attraction through The Secret, and they were getting very discouraged because it wasn't working for them. So I wrote this book, Practical Law of Attraction, because I wanted to bring practicality to it and give people a process that really works no matter what. And it's about getting into alignment with the 8 manifesting conditions. And I touched on the desire, but there's ultimately 8 manifesting conditions, which when you really think about anybody who's ever brought about any kind of success in their life, they've all essentially gotten into alignment with these 8 conditions. And it's desire, thought, imagination, belief, vibration, creative attraction, inspired action, and the manifestation itself. And when you are in alignment with all of those 8 manifesting conditions, you will attract whatever you want. So I give people these exercises and these tools and these techniques to help them to get into alignment. And it's undeniable information. Like all of these things that I talk about in there are really undeniable truths. Like no one can dispute that you would need to believe in order, and even if you don't think you believe on a conscious level, there's a part of you, there's your subconscious that needs to believe, vice versa. I mean, you're ultimately going to get whatever you focus on, and without exception. So I just teach people how to actually make it happen for them. Who it's designed for, I have 2 characters in the book that I always refer to, and one of them is Soulmate Seeking Sam. And so he is on his journey to find his soulmate. And I put these characters through the process along the way. And the other one is Emma, the entrepreneur. And so she's a coach. And so these are like, not knowing it at the time, but these are really like my 2 avatars really that I wrote the book for. And I look at it in hindsight, it's like, whoa, that's exactly who I tend to attract. And so but, it really can be, used for anyone that has any kind of goal at all. Those are just, really the people that I'm speaking to more or less throughout the book.
Well, if folks want to get the book, learn more about you, where can they find out more?
Yeah, so they can find that book just by typing in Practical Law of Attraction on Amazon. There are a couple of knockoffs that are not mine, but, you can see the picture in there. The one that came out longer ago and has the most reviews is mine. But anyway, or if you want to be sure, you can go to my website, victoriamgallagher.com, and that'll direct you to the correct Amazon place that you can buy it.
Great. We'll share that information in the show notes. So, Victoria, there are 2 questions I ask every guest that comes on the show. And the first question is, what are 1 or 2 songs that are on your power playlist and why?
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to say one of them is Alive by Sia. I love that song. It just makes you feel alive. And Believe, I would say, is another one of them by Fantasia, I believe. I love that. It just really, every time I listen to it, It picks up my vibe. And I have so many high vibe. I've got like literally a high vibe playlist.
I
And
love
every time I listen to, a song that it's just like, oh, I feel happy, I'll just stick that one on my on my high vibe playlist.
I love that. I love that. And our last question is, what is one book that you would recommend that has helped you thrive in business?
I would say, oh, there's two. Can I say two? So one's on the mind and one's on the strategy, marketing. And so the mind, definitely Think and Grow Rich was a huge inspiration for me. And I even read that before I did any of this work. It was required reading when I became a stockbroker. And so I did exactly as I was told, but I got it's one of those books that I just was timeless. Every time I read it, I get just a little bit more out of it. And the other one that's more on the marketing strategy side is Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. And he's the founder of ClickFunnels, which is this funnel software I love using. And he wrote these 3 books. Trying to remember all 3 of them, but the Expert Secrets was definitely the best one. And it really just kind of helps you to understand really the whole psychology behind marketing and what ultimately creates a movement in your business. And very, very good book. Highly recommended.
I've read Think and Grow Rich. I will add Expert Secrets to my reading list. So thank you for the suggestion.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, Victoria, it has been a delight talking with you today.
You too.
Gotten some new insights that will help me move forward in my business. So I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It was great chatting with you and sharing the story. I just love talking about hypnosis and law of attraction and how to improve your life and how to be a good business owner.
Great. Well, if any of the listeners are interested in doing those things, please check out Victoria's website and her book. And I'd love to hear from you once you do either of those. So thank you again, Victoria.
Thank you again so much, Nikki.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too.